use WordPress and want to automate the content generation and posting of the blog posts, this is the workflow for you. And this is version 3 where it's updated to include an additional language model, in this case Claude, to generate content. So what it's going to do is create 2 different versions of your blog post using OpenAI as well as Claude and have those available for you on your WordPress instance. Before you get started, I want to make sure you have all your information updated on Airtable before you start running this workflow. So I want to point out that in my profile box here inside the workflow, if you click on this link to the Airtable base used in this workflow, it will take you to a publicly available Airtable base, and you can see it's called Alex K 1919 Content Manager Copy. And first and foremost, you want to make sure that all your brand guidelines are properly filled out according to what brand you are working with, whether it's your own or your clients, whatever that might be. Make sure that this is filled out and ready to go before you run the workflow. Secondly, you want to make sure that you have some keywords in here to be able to generate the content. And then also set the status to create blog posts, and that the workflow will know that that is the keyword that it should be working on. You can add further context to that blog post here in this column. If there's a URL that you want the workflow to go and look at as it's generating content, you can put that here. And then also you can identify the maximum number of chapters for that post, as well as the maximum number of words. And the rest of these items and these columns are not going to be used at this time, okay? So make sure that those are filled up before you start generating content with this workflow. Again, that URL is right here, guys. And then once you're in the workflow, you want to make sure that you double click on the brand guidelines and pick, you see here, it says the Alex K 1919 Content Manager Copy. Make sure that is selected and that brand guidelines is selected before you get started on this, okay? Same thing here with the get keywords. Make sure that it is using the Content Manager Copy and that it's not using anything else. And then if I zoom out, there are 3 other places actually. One over here at the very end where we want to update the status once the content's generated. And then another update status here, down here. Here, let me zoom in. You guys are probably... So we want to update the status here. So make sure that's using the proper Airtable base. And then these 2 here, make sure that it is using the proper Airtable base as well. Okay, so make sure that you have this content filled up. You can obviously copy this base into your own account and rename it whatever you want to do, because there are other people in this Airtable base. It's just used as a template for you to build your content engine from. So before you get started, make sure that that is set up, okay? Then we'll move on to the next items. Assuming you have the Airtable base information set up properly, this workflow is almost ready to go. The next thing we want to do is make sure your other credentials are properly set up. Okay, so what other credentials do we need? Well, we're going to need to make sure that our Anthropic or Claude credentials are set up here. And so you can see that this currently uses Sonnet, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which from my research has shown to be the better Sonnet version for writing. And in order for you to create a new credential, you go into this node here, create new credentials, and go through and follow the docs available on N8N. These documentations for setting up credentials are really, really helpful, and they're step by step. If you just follow them, you should be able to get that set up and implement it all. For Claude, it's really just one API key. That's all you need, okay? So make sure that that is set up. The next thing is you'll probably get a little, red triangle saying that your Claude isn't set up in this node as well. So double click that and use the new credentials you've set up. And then we get to the WordPress credentials. So there's been a lot of confusion around the WordPress setup because there are 2 different logins for WordPress. One is your regular login to log into the WordPress admin panel. And then the second is the WordPress application password, okay? And I've actually created a different video for getting that properly set up. So I'll link to that in the video descriptions to make sure you guys can follow through on that. But make sure that you are using, so you can see here that the username is your regular username, your for regular login, okay? But the password here in this case is your application, your WordPress application password. And this is just your blog or your WordPress URL, whatever that might be. This is just for me. It's just a test WordPress instance to be able to run these workflows. But the difference here is that this is your regular username and the password is your application password. Okay, so big difference there. Going to get a little bit confusing, but you can follow that other video and get that properly set up. All right, so the next thing that you need to do is make sure you've got the OpenAI credential set up. So again, go through this create new credential screen and follow these documentations. Here with OpenAI, it looks like it just straight up shows it in the setup, but there's also the docs link that will walk you through creating the OpenAI credentials step by step. So no real issue there. As long as you have an account, you should be able to get that set up. So this is for the RankMath, and the other piece for RankMath is the functions.php update. So here, if you've downloaded the workflow itself, you'll see that I've included an example functions.php, and that code will be necessary in order to make sure that you update your WordPress theme to be able to update the RankMath plugin. And again, guys, this is only if you're using the RankMath plugin, but if you're not, go ahead and just skip these two nodes. You can just turn them off here, right? If you turn them off, this workflow will just bypass that, and you can go in manually set your SEO data for whichever plugin you might be using, whether it's Yoast or some other plugin. But if you do use RankMath and want to save a step in generating the SEO data, the keyword and the meta description, you'll want to go and set up the functions.php, and I'll go through that in a little bit. All right. So next, once you are done with the RankMath, you should also double click this, make sure it's using the proper OpenAI credentials. Then the other thing you need to do is make sure you're setting up the Leonardo.ai credentials. And here we're going to use a custom auth, and this custom auth in this case is going to use a JSON format. Okay, so let me see, I'll show you. Yeah, so I'm going to cover up my API key once this video is actually live, but you can see here, this is a format of the Leonardo custom auth. So you can just, copy this and then make sure you're using your own API keys to get this set up. All right, and then everything else is going to just follow the workflow path. These two, let's see, 1, 2, 3 items should be all set up for Leonardo. The other two are going to use WordPress to update that data. If you don't have a Slack connection, you can just turn this off. I have a custom Slack app that will notify me when the blog posts are posted onto the WordPress site. So it'll show me the link to the draft as well as a link to the image that was generated. So I just added that in as a sort of a ease of use item so that I can quickly take a look at what was created in terms of the image, and then also click through to the draft blog post when it's ready. And then this last item here with the update status will update the status back on your Airtable, where the status will be set to draft blog post is ready. Okay, so that's what happens in this workflow here. This bottom part here was the version 2, where we were using OpenAI's just regular chat interface versus the new version up on this top part where we're using Claude is now using a AI agent, specifically a tools agent, to reach out to the language model and also do the website review. Then I also added the Wikipedia and calculator if it needs that. And then also what I changed is the structured output parser so that every time we're generating the content, there's no any sort of hallucination with either titles or structure of the content. It's always going to be the same. And so those are the two big changes, is that we're actually now using an AI agent node within N8N and also structuring that output so that we don't have any sort of mistakes with the structure of the output in the future. All right, so let me go ahead and end this part here, and we'll move on to showing you what to do for the functions.php. Okay, let's take a little detour to show you how to update your functions.php for your WordPress website. Okay, I'm not sure if what theme you might be using, right? Because there's no way to tell what you're going to be actually using, but one of the themes I like and use pretty much exclusively is called Neve. And what you want to do, regardless of what theme you might be using, you want to make sure that you have installed the child theme for that theme. What does that mean? So you can see here we have the parent theme, which is the primary theme, but I've installed the child theme for this so that as the primary theme is updated, right? And that will happen often, especially when new versions of WordPress come out and things like that. They will update the primary theme, okay? That, again, that happens quite often. But because you have a child theme installed, no matter how many times this parent theme is updated, this child theme and the customizations contained within your child theme will never be overwritten by the update of the parent theme. So make sure that whatever theme you're currently using, you do have a child theme or child version of that parent theme installed so that you can customize it and put the configurations into the functions.php and not worry about it being overwritten in the future. Okay, so what do you have to do in order to update your functions.php? If you have a standard WordPress installation, you will see this little button on the left side under Appearance called Theme File Editor. And once you click on this, you will see a few files, and because it's the child theme, it should not show you all the rest of the files. So for example, if I picked the parent theme, you'll see a bunch of everything. This is the stuff you never want to touch, all right? You don't want to touch any of these files for the parent theme. But if we go to the child theme, you'll see that this is a lot less information because we're only updating some of the functionalities we want for our website specifically. So I'll go ahead and click into functions.php. And you can see here that, let me move my face around. So you can see here that these files up to line 14, you never want to touch this. But what I've included in the functions.php, if you've downloaded this workflow, is this section after add this to all sites. So what this is doing is creating a custom API endpoint for the RankMath SEO plugin. So it's creating an endpoint to be able to update the keyword and the meta description using a custom API endpoint. And if you wanted to, you see here where it says AlexK1919, that's kind of your identifier, meaning this is a custom code. You can change this to whatever brand you're using. It doesn't really matter. But if you do change this, you'll want to make sure you change it back on the workflow side of things, right? In this node here, you'll see here where I've hard coded that endpoint, right? So AlexK1919 v1, which matches to this endpoint here, AlexK1919 v1. So either way, this is how you'll want to update your functions.php, copy and paste that code from the example you've downloaded, and update your WordPress in this fashion. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so I want to also explain what is exactly happening in this overall workflow so you have an understanding. I know this might seem like a lot, but let me break it down in parts. So, and I color coded everything so you can have an easier understanding of which sort of segments are doing what, okay? So in the very beginning here, we have a manual trigger for the workflow. So that's, that's basically if you hit this test workflow button, it's going to start running everything. You can also set different triggers. So for example, if you want to capture some information via form that will be added to this and you want to customize this overall workflow, you can do so. We can also trigger it with updates that happen from within Airtable if you want to get that up and running. But I added those as potential options as you're going to start working with this workflow. And again, in this red section, basically what we're doing here is we're basically getting all the settings ready, pulling in your brand guidelines, pulling in the keywords, and seeing which keywords are set at a certain status, okay? And so all of that is prepared in this little box here for the settings. So prep for the green and purple portions of this workflow. And I'll just cover the different color versions for just the Claude because it is basically replicated for the OpenAI version as well. So here in the green sections, we have our AI agents doing the work. And in this first one is the article structure where we're creating, based on the keywords, the nested and the number of words requested, we're going to create the title of the post as well as the chapter titles and sort of content direction for the overall article. So that's what's happening here. And again, we're using the structured output so that we have more consistent data. And we have a node that will check to make sure all the components of the blog post are there, such as the title, the chapter title, and so on. And then we're going to use a little bit of code to split up the chapters and have this next AI agent write the content for those chapters. And that's where this little green box or this agent is going to do the work. And then on the content preparation side, we're going to bring all the titles, bring all the chapter text into one node and have it ready to go. And so one other code node here where it's going to structure all of that content into proper HTML in preparation to push to WordPress, okay? So, and then in the purple section or bluish purple section, whatever you want to call it, we're going to post that draft onto WordPress. We're going to update the SEO data for the RankMath plugin, and we are going to have a quick chat message model for OpenAI to create the meta description short text, okay? Then we have another OpenAI chat node to create a image prompt based on the article content and the brand guidelines. Then we're going to sort of set that data so it's prepared to use for Leonardo. And then we push that prompt, that initial image prompt, into Leonardo to have it improve that prompt for use within its own model. So Leonardo.ai offers a prompt improvement capability so that it's better tailored for its language model. And then here we go through the image generation. And because they don't have a webhook capability, we'll go ahead and wait for that image output, get the image ID, download it, upload it to WordPress. And then once it's uploaded, because now we have an image or media ID, we can tie that media ID back to the draft WordPress post that was created back over here. So that's kind of what's happening. And then at the end, we have some notifications to Slack. And then as we discussed earlier, the update status back into Airtable. And so as you can see here, based on the color coding of the features or functions, it's sort of same things are happening. But again, with the Claude version, I've updated it to use AI agents instead of just a chat messaging capability. All right. Let me know if you have any questions around how this workflow is structured and set up. If you find opportunities to change and improve things, feel free, break it, make a copy of it in your N8 instance, explore, experiment with different things and see if you can improve on it. But, if you do, let us know what kind of things you changed and how you've made it better or took it in a different direction. Okay, so you have everything set up. You've got the Airtable content updated with your brand guidelines, with your keywords. You have all your credentials set up with, let's see, Claude, OpenAI, WordPress. You've got your functions.php updated if you're going to use RankMath, and you have your Leonardo.ai credentials also installed. So boom, we are ready to go. Fingers crossed, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this with the keyword being content generator for WordPress version 3, which is what you guys are currently watching. So I'm going to run this and let it do its thing. And let's see in the end where we end up. So I'm going to pause this, let it run because it will take a bit of time, and I'll be right back. Okay, we've got the image generator waiting for the final output before it goes. So again, quick unpause to show you that we're starting to get check marks across the board, and we will be back once it's ready. Okay, the Claude version is done, and you guys can see down here that the OpenAI version is now running. And again, I will be back once this is all done and the blog posts have been posted. Okay guys, everything ran smoothly. Both WordPress posts ran without any issues, and you can see here that we do have, let me move my face. We have green check marks across the board. So as each node ran, we do have green check marks. And if I go back to the WordPress site, we see here that we do have 2 posts that are ready to go. Let me just view one of them real quick. So boom. Okay, awesome. So these WordPress posts are ready. And if we go back here to the Airtable base, we see here that the 2 posts have been posted onto the Airtable base. We can click onto the image that was generated as well as the post link itself. Boom. Awesome. Great. So this is a fully functioning workflow with both versions, Claude and OpenAI, ready to go. And again, it's using the Airtable base that's publicly available. So you can see here the Alex K 1919 Content Manager copy. So once you get this installed onto your N8 instance and you update all your credentials, make sure you've connected the proper Airtable base. This should be ready to go and running smoothly for you guys. All right. Thanks for watching this far. If you guys have any questions, comments, let me know either via the YouTube comments or you can contact me directly using the that's available in the about or the description. All right. Thanks again and see you in the next one.